The on-screen relationship of Lucy and Ricky Ricardo was charming and romantic, masking the trouble Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz often struggled with in their off-screen marriage. In true Hollywood fashion, Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz met on a movie set. The year was 1940, and the movie was Too Many Girls, a film about an eccentric heiress, played by Ball. But Lucy had seen Desi before. She'd just finished the movie Five Come Back and was in New York City on a promotional tour. The studio urged her to see the stage version of Too Many Girls, which starred a young Arnaz as a football player. Upon seeing Arnaz on stage, Ball was immediately smitten with his good looks, charm, and comedic appeal. However, Arnaz's first impression of Ball went a little differently. Arnaz was already on set for Too Many Girls when Ball came in with smeared makeup and a black eye, looking completely disheveled. Arnaz was taken aback by her appearance, thinking there was no way she was a suitable leading lady.
I said to Mr. Abbott, she's going to be the engineer. She out of your mind.
What Arnaz didn't realize was that Ball had just come from next door, where she was shooting a fight scene for another film. The black eye was fake. Upon seeing Ball later, in costume for their film, Arnaz couldn't believe it was the same person. He was immediately attracted to her. Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz were married within a year of their first date. As Arnaz explains in his autobiography, a book by Desi Arnaz, it was November 29, 1940, and he'd just been reunited with Ball after being separated due to their busy work schedules. Arnaz came to visit Ball at her New York City hotel during a break between his shows at the Roxy. While there, Arnaz heard Ball give an interview explaining why she and Arnaz wouldn't be getting married. She made every excuse in the book, saying they were too busy and led separate lives. As soon as the interview finished, Arnaz told her the reporter's story was going to flop, considering he'd already arranged for them to get married in Connecticut. The article was published under the title, Why I Will Always Remain a Bachelor Girl, but she agreed to marry Arnaz. They drove to Greenwich, Connecticut the next morning and eloped. Arnaz forgot the ring, so they had to use a brass one from Woolworth's, which he eventually replaced. They were both very happy. Ball and Arnaz agreed from the beginning that it would be much easier to cultivate a happy, loving marriage if they kept some distance between themselves and the hustle and bustle of Hollywood. Ball wanted to settle down and focus on becoming domesticated, so after just 6 months of marriage, they bought a ranch in California's San Fernando Valley. Arnaz, who grew up on ranches in his native Cuba, immediately took to the life, building a swimming pool and planting tree crops on their 5-acre property. They called the ranch, and would eventually call their production company, Desilu, a portmanteau of their names. Yet, while they shared so much, one thing they kept separate was their finances. This was largely because Ball was frugal with her money, while Arnaz tended to make extravagant purchases. At first, everything seemed perfect for Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz at Desilu Ranch, but the honeymoon didn't last. They had their hands full keeping up with expenses, and they quarreled over their animals. Arnaz wanted to kill their livestock for food, which upset Ball and prompted her to call him a murderous monster.
She said, all my chickens died of natural causes.
In 1941, Ball experienced the first of several miscarriages, which affected both her and Arnaz deeply. They were both struggling in their acting careers, and Ball even attempted to give Arnaz private acting lessons. In May 1943, at the height of World War II, Arnaz was drafted into the U.S. Army. Ball thought it might help cool his temper. Initially, Arnaz was stationed close to Desilu, in Van Nuys, California, to help provide entertainment for new recruits. He injured his knee during basic training, which prevented him from serving overseas. While it allowed him to stay in the safety of California, it upset Arnaz that he couldn't fight overseas for his adopted country. Even though Desi Arnaz was stationed just down the street from his home during the war, his relationship with wife Lucille Ball was deteriorating. Arnaz had affairs with multiple women while he was living on the army base, and he would often visit mistresses instead of his wife while on leave.
Hey, what's that for?
That's for being a big two-timer, you Cuban heel!
Ball found out about these liaisons through the tabloids, and in retaliation, began seeing other men. By 1944, Arnaz stopped coming home, prompting Ball to file for divorce. But she was still in love with Arnaz. She wanted to give him time to work things out before the split was final. After they talked things over, Arnaz's behavior markedly improved, at least for a time. Ball desperately wanted to co-star with Arnaz in a movie, but after his discharge from the army, he returned to his first love as a bandleader. In 1949, Arnaz and Ball renewed their marriage vows at a Catholic church, with Arnaz promising to clean up his act. In the spring of 1950, Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz were hard at work trying to convince the executives at CBS to adopt the radio program she was starring in, My Favorite Husband, into a TV series featuring her and Arnaz together.
A guy who's been raised in show business, and he wants nothing more than to get away from it and have a normal home life, and he marries a girl who's dying to get into show business.
While performing their vaudeville act to impress CBS executives, Ball experienced another miscarriage. However, just a few months later, Ball and Arnaz found themselves expecting again. The following summer, in July 1951, Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz welcomed baby Lucy Arnaz to the family. Initially, they had agreed to name the baby Susan. At the last second, however, Arnaz changed the name on the birth certificate to Lucy, which shocked and delighted Ball when she found out. Just over 6 months later, in February 1952, Ball was pregnant again. Her pregnancy was written into I Love Lucy as a major plot point, and their son was born on the same day as the episode showing the birth of Lucy's TV son aired.
Ricky, this is it.
This is it!
On the show, he was Ricky Jr., but in the Ball-Arnaz household, he was Desi Arnaz Jr. Before Lucille Ball became one of the biggest international TV stars of the 1950s, she struggled to find herself on screen. Between 1948 and 1950, she starred on the popular radio program My Favorite Husband. Ball wanted to take My Favorite Husband from the radio to the screen, not only because it was more lucrative, but also because she saw it as a way to save her marriage to Desi. It was around this time that they renewed their vows, with Arnaz promising to change his philandering ways. Working together seemed like a perfect idea at the time. Ball and Arnaz would be together both on screen and off, and they could keep their marriage going. Of course, neither of them could have foreseen the incredible hit that I Love Lucy would become. The show ran from 1951 to 1957, producing 180 episodes over 6 seasons and becoming one of the most beloved shows in American TV history. Like their characters, Lucy and Ricky, Ball and Arnaz stayed together throughout the show's entire run. In 1936, when Lucille Ball was in her mid-20s and before she met Desi Arnaz, she made a seemingly harmless decision. A family friend was running for city council office that year, and Ball registered as a member of the Communist Party in order to vote for him. Ball registered as a communist to appease her grandfather. It had nothing to do with the party's politics or ideology. In 1940, she gave vocal support to 2 colleagues who were accused of being communists, which sparked the revelation of her 1936 registration. Things stayed mostly silent until 1953, when she was ordered to appear before the notorious House Un-American Activities Committee. She denied any communist affiliation, but the press got word of it and accused her of being a communist. While this might not seem like a big deal now, at the height of the Cold War with Russia, it could have devastated her reputation and forced her onto the blacklist. Ball and Arnaz were preparing to film the inaugural episode of I Love Lucy, and the scandal threatened to end the show before it even started. However, Arnaz stood by Ball and gave a rousing and emotional speech to the studio audience, winning them over.
The only thing red about her was her hair, and even that was not legitimate.
Arnaz himself was enraged over the accusations, particularly because, as he noted in his autobiography, A Book by Desi Arnaz, his family had struggled against the Bolsheviks in his native Cuba in the 1930s. As Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz continued to entertain audiences with their on-screen image as the Ricardo family on I Love Lucy, their off-screen reality began to deteriorate as time went on. One of the biggest factors in their relationship's decline was Arnaz's unhealthy use of alcohol. As Coyne Stevens Sanders explains in Desilu, the story of Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz, his alcohol use became so severe that it started to hurt his performance on the show, making Ball more and more upset. Years later, even his daughter could feel the pain that it caused the family and her mother, and it also led to Arnaz's increasing infidelity. he started to gamble more, which Ball did not approve of. According to Desilu Productions executive Martin Leeds, Arnaz resented the fact that Ball was the ultimate star of the show at his expense.
No matter how hard he worked or what a great businessman he was, she was the clown. The show was built around her.
As the show and Ball became more successful, his drinking increased in tandem, along with the disintegration of their relationship. By the end of the 1950s, after the original I Love Lucy show had ended and Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz had shifted to shooting one-hour specials, it was clear the relationship had run its course. As Ball recalls in her autobiography, Love, Lucy, Arnaz was constantly under the influence of alcohol and they were always fighting. It got to the point where they just stopped speaking to each other, and Ball realized that they were probably not the greatest fit as a couple in the first place. They had wildly different ideas about social life, with Ball being far more conservative than the over-the-top Arnaz. She made the decision to divorce him in late 1959, and on March 3, 1960, she filed for divorce again, this time for good. Arnaz had been the one to ask her to do it, as Ball found herself unable to end the relationship herself. They were actually filming a scene on the day she filed the papers. That would be the final time they would work together professionally. Like she did in 1944, Ball cited extreme mental cruelty as the grounds for ending the marriage. After years of embarrassment and emotional distress, it was just too much for her to put up with anymore. Today, the title I Love Lucy is so iconic that most people ignore the fact that the actress always went by the name Lucille Ball instead of Lucy. As Desi Arnaz explained in his autobiography, a book by Desi Arnaz, the reason for this is actually much darker than you might think. Even though Arnaz constantly cheated on Ball during their marriage, he was also incredibly possessive.
My favorite redhead, the vice president of Desilu Productions Incorporated. I am the president.
Arnaz actually refused to call her by the name Lucille and started using Lucy within just a few months of their dating. For some reason, Arnaz was upset that men Ball had previously dated had called her by her preferred name. He wanted to use Lucy because he felt that made it special and unique to their relationship. Unfortunately, Arnaz's jealousy over other suitors did not translate into him becoming a reliable and trustworthy husband himself. Following their divorce, both Lucy and Desi remarried, Arnaz to Edith Mack Hirsch and Ball to Gary Morton. In 1985, Hirsch died of cancer, and the next year, Arnaz himself was diagnosed with lung cancer. Ball found out about his diagnosis when she called to wish him a happy 69th birthday. She was devastated by the news. Though they initially were estranged leading up to and following their divorce, their feelings softened in the decades after and they managed to retain a friendship. The last time they spoke was November 30th, 1986, exactly 46 years after their wedding. Ball was one of the last people Arnaz spoke to before dying. Her final words to him were simple and heartbreaking.
She said, "I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you."
He told her he loved her. Desi Arnaz died 2 days later on December 2nd. Lucille Ball was one of the few to attend his funeral. If you or anyone you know needs help with addiction issues, help is available. Visit the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration website or contact SAMHSA's National Helpline at 1-800-662-HELP, 1-800-662-4357.